Before I left witchcraft, we didn't just focus on individuals. We focused on environments, homes, churches, schools, and yes, workplaces. I need you to understand something from the beginning. Not every difficult job is under spiritual attack. Not every stressful boss is demonic. Not every toxic coworker is a curse assignment. Sometimes poor leadership is just poor leadership. Sometimes burnout is just exhaustion. But sometimes there is an atmosphere shift that cannot be explained by normal tension alone. When I was involved in occult systems, we understood the power of environment. If you want to destabilize people, you don't always target their prayer life directly. You target the place where they spend 8 to 10 hours a day, their workplace, because that's where identity is tested. Finances are sustained. Confidence is built or broken. If you can create confusion, division, fear, or constant instability in that environment, it slowly drains a person's peace. And drained people make compromised decisions. I remember being part of discussions where the goal wasn't dramatic manifestation. It was subtle disruption. Increase miscommunication, amplify suspicion, create unnecessary competition, stir quiet resentment. The strategy was simply destabilize the atmosphere, not loudly, gradually. So today, I'm going to walk you through 7 signs that may indicate your workplace is experiencing spiritual pressure, not to create paranoia, but to help you discern between normal stress and something more coordinated. Because here's the truth, workplaces naturally have conflict. But when conflict becomes chronic, irrational, and strangely cyclical, that's when you pay attention. Discernment is calm, fear is reactive. And what I'm about to share is not meant to make you anxious about your job. It's meant to help you protect your peace in it. The first sign we looked for when targeting an environment was miscommunication, not normal mistakes. Chronic miscommunication. There is a difference. In every workplace, emails get missed. Instructions get misunderstood. Deadlines get mixed up. That's human. But when communication breakdown becomes constant, when simple instructions repeatedly get twisted, when conversations feel strangely unclear, when projects collapse because of details that were supposedly confirmed, that is a different pattern. Inside occult strategy, confusion was powerful because confusion produces frustration. Frustration produces accusation. Accusation produces division. And division weakens structure. I remember sitting in discussions where the goal wasn't to create chaos instantly. It was to create subtle distortion. Make one department feel unheard. Make one employee feel targeted. Let minor misunderstandings snowball into personal offenses. When communication becomes unstable, trust erodes. And once trust erodes, productivity drops naturally. If your workplace constantly feels like you're speaking different languages, even when you're being clear, pause and observe. Is it poor systems? Is it weak leadership? Or is there a strange pattern where clarity never seems to hold? The key word is pattern. One bad week is not a sign, but a repeating cycle of breakdown that makes no logical sense may indicate spiritual pressure on the atmosphere. And here's why this matters. Confusion drains confidence. When you begin doubting your own clarity, your own memory, your own competence, you slowly shrink. That shrinking is the real objective. Because a workplace full of shrinking individuals becomes easy to control. If you recognize this sign, don't panic. Strengthen documentation. Follow up in writing. Clarify twice. Stay calm. Confusion thrives on emotional reaction. It weakens under composure. Remember, discernment does not accuse people. It identifies patterns. And pattern recognition is the first step to protecting your peace. The second sign we watched for was irrational conflict, not normal disagreement, irrational escalation. Every workplace has tension. People have different personalities. Deadlines create pressure. But when minor issues consistently explode into disproportionate arguments, when neutral conversations turn hostile without clear cause, when co-workers who once worked smoothly together suddenly become adversarial, that is a pattern worth observing. Inside occult strategy, emotional amplification was intentional. You don't always create new problems. You intensify small ones. A simple correction becomes a personal attack. A scheduling change becomes favoritism. Constructive feedback becomes humiliation. When emotions are constantly heightened beyond the situation, the environment begins to feel volatile. Volatility produces fear, and fear silences people. I remember being taught that environments under pressure don't collapse immediately. They destabilize emotionally first. People begin reacting instead of responding. Tone shifts. Patience shortens. Suspicion increases. And here is the important distinction. Sometimes this is just poor emotional intelligence in leadership. Sometimes it's burnout. But when the conflict feels strangely synchronized, when multiple people begin acting out of character at the same time, that's when you look deeper. Atmosphere matters. When an atmosphere carries tension long enough, even calm individuals begin absorbing it. You may notice yourself becoming more defensive than usual, more easily irritated, more suspicious. That is how pressure spreads. If this sign is present in your workplace, your first defense is emotional discipline. Do not mirror the escalation. Do not absorb the hostility. Keep your tone steady. Document interactions. Refuse to react impulsively, because irrational conflict feeds on reaction. It weakens when confronted with stability. A workplace under spiritual pressure often shows itself through emotional instability that spreads like static in the air. But remember, you do not fight instability with instability. You protect your peace by staying anchored while others shake. The third sign we looked for was instability in personnel. Again, not normal transitions. Constant, unusual turnover. Every workplace experiences change. People move. Contracts end. New opportunities arise. That is life. But when employees begin leaving suddenly, especially strong, competent, stable individuals, and they leave without clear explanation, that creates a vacuum, and vacuums destabilize structure. Inside occult strategy, this was understood clearly. If you remove anchors from an environment, everything else becomes easier to shake. Strong personalities carry calm. Experienced workers carry memory. Ethical leaders carry balance. When those people exit abruptly and repeatedly, the atmosphere weakens. You might notice this pattern in subtle ways. A respected team member resigns unexpectedly. A department head leaves after conflict that seems minor. Talented employees burn out quickly. New hires don't last. On the surface, it looks like management issues. And sometimes it is. But when the pattern repeats in waves, when stability never seems to last, you pay attention. Instability creates insecurity, and insecurity spreads. People begin asking, who's next? They begin protecting themselves instead of collaborating. They stop investing emotionally in long-term goals because they assume the ground will shift again. That assumption alone weakens productivity. In occult environments, the goal was rarely instant destruction. It was erosion. Slow erosion of trust, structure, and continuity. And turnover is a powerful eroding force. Now listen carefully. Discernment is not blame. You do not accuse your workplace of being cursed because 3 people resigned. You look for repetition. You observe the emotional climate around those exits. Were they connected to sudden conflict? Was there unusual pressure? Did morale drop sharply after? If your workplace feels like it can never hold onto stability, your response is not fear. Your response is grounding. Strengthen your personal routines. Keep your performance consistent. Don't tie your emotional state to the instability around you. If others are leaving impulsively, don't let that trigger panic decisions in you. Because panic is contagious, and environments under pressure often try to spread that panic. You protect yourself by becoming steady, even when the structure around you feels unstable. Stability in a destabilized atmosphere is resistance. The 4th sign is subtle but powerful. Unusual favoritism, not normal leadership preference. Strategic favoritism that creates quiet division. Every workplace has high performers. Every manager has employees they trust more. That is natural. But when favoritism becomes irrational, when underqualified individuals are promoted suddenly, when accountability seems selective, when certain people are protected regardless of behavior, it creates imbalance. And imbalance creates resentment. Inside occult strategy, division was more effective than confrontation. You don't always attack openly. You introduce unfairness, because unfairness breeds suspicion. Suspicion breeds comparison. Comparison breeds jealousy, and jealousy fractures teams. When a workplace begins operating on hidden rules instead of transparent standards, morale drops. Employees stop focusing on excellence and start focusing on politics. Meetings feel tense. Conversations feel guarded. You may even sense that decisions are being made behind closed doors in ways that consistently undermine stability. Now again, this could simply be poor management. But when favoritism seems to trigger waves of tension that ripple through departments, when it feels coordinated in its divisive effect, that's when discernment becomes necessary. Because favoritism under pressure has a specific outcome, it isolates people. The overlooked employee withdraws. The favored employee becomes resented. The team fractures into silent camps. And fractured teams are weak teams. In occult environments, the goal was never unity. Unity is strength. Unity resists manipulation. So anything that introduced suspicion between coworkers was useful. If you recognize this sign, your response is not gossip, it's integrity. Do not participate in quiet resentment circles. Do not fuel political narratives. Continue performing at a high level regardless of recognition. Document your achievements. Protect your professionalism. Favoritism thrives when others respond emotionally. It weakens when you stay focused and composed. Because here's the truth: you cannot always control leadership decisions, but you can control whether you allow unfairness to poison your attitude. A workplace under spiritual pressure often reveals itself through division masked as promotion. And the strongest defense against division is disciplined character.